2x minus 2. Yeah, what do you got?
I have a question for number 1.
Yeah, let's go back to number 1. All right, what do you got?
So when you get negative 6x plus 14,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know how to add? Like, how do you know when to add?
How do I know when to add the 14 versus subtract the 14? So notice how we have a positive 14? That means I must attach it with a positive sign. Let's say this was negative 9 minus 5 and came up to a negative 14. This would be attached by a minus 14. It's whatever's in front of that constant. Is that clear? Okay. Okay.
He shouldn't make an excuse. Copyright. It was a
Let's continue on. So notice how we have this negative 7p. Do we have another one with p attached to it?
yes.
We have the negative 9p. So what we want to do is we want to do negative 7p minus 9p. Now, do you notice how there's two negatives? So we're going to go further in the negative direction. And what I'm going to do to help myself out is, what's 7? Let's just, what would happen if I had 7 plus 9?
16.
I would have 16. Do we agree with that? 7 plus 9 is 16. So if I have a negative 7 minus 9, we're going to have a negative 16. So if I have two negatives, we could just straight up add it like normal and attach a negative sign to it. So this will just be a negative 16p. And then finally we have this negative 1 plus 5. Notice a negative 1 and a positive 5 go in opposite directions. So we should not have something that's like negative 6 or a positive 6 because they're going in opposite directions. This one says go in the positive 5 direction. And then the negative 1 says take a step back. What's a step back from positive 5?
4.
Gabby? This would be positive 4. So this should be 4. So we're going to have a negative 16p. And once again, notice it's a positive 4. So we'll add plus 4. Sharpen it. On our next one, we'll kind of break it down a little faster. If I have 15h plus 7h, what's 15 plus 7? What's 15 plus 7?
22.
I'm just waiting until he's finished. All right, so we have 22h. And don't shout it out. What would happen if I had negative 6 minus 8? Yeah. What's negative 7 minus 8?
Negative 7.
Raise your hand. What's negative 6 minus 8? Negative 6 minus 8. Okay.
What?
Close.
14.
14, because 7 plus 9 would be 15, so 6 plus 8 would be negative 14. So we have minus 14. Now, once again, because it would be a negative 14, we attach it by subtraction, right? All right, our next one, we have 8w minus 1w. Don't shout it out.
Baby, why is Wix easy? This is so soft.
I don't know, can we finish this? Raise your hand if you think you know 8w minus w. What would you get out? 2 people. Awesome. Let's just... Yeah. 8w minus w would be...
8w minus w would be 7w?
It'd be 7w, because if I have 8 w's and I take 1 away, I have 7 w's. All right, could someone else give me what would happen if I did negative 27 plus 4? What'd you come up with?
Negative 23.
You got negative 23. I agree with negative 23.
Hey, so I got that wrong.
And our final one, notice how we have different variables. Is it possible to add 19a and subtract 6b from it? No, because I don't have a 19ab, right? We just have a 19a, a 6a. So yeah.
Hey, use the restroom.
No, we just started class. What's 19a minus 6a? Yeah.
13.
It'd be 13a, because it's just 19 minus 6, right? So I'll have 13a. And can someone finish this one off? What's the last thing I'm going to put on here?
7B.
Let's just hang on. Let's let everyone think about it.
I got it.
Someone from the front pod? I don't think we've heard from you guys. Campbell. We're going to put 5b.
No, it's negative 5. No. It's negative 5.
I agree with the 5b. Do you agree with negative 5b? Yeah. So we'll put a negative on it.
I didn't see the minus 6.
Hey, if we can't do this, we can't do anything else in this chapter. That's why it's imperative we took our time and did our homework on this one. If we can't do this, the rest of the chapter is inaccessible. Basically, you got to understand this stuff, okay? So having this up there, do we have any quick questions? What do you have for a question?
When you're doing those questions, you put the variable first.
We put the variable first. Yep.
You add, in the question you add.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a whole bunch of people talking.
You put the variable first,
So when you're doing a question like for number 2,
Mm-hmm.
you do 5x and 3x first.
That's what I would do in my head. I always do the ones with variables so I know it comes out first. There's no, it's just the neat way to put it. When you get to a higher level math class, you'll be forced to organize it from highest power to lowest power. So we're just getting the hang of it right now. If you put negative 2 plus 2x on a test, I'm not going to take any points off. I might just put a little arrow and say, hey, remember, we're going to switch it.
Is it because whenever we're like,
What? We're going to talk about something called the distributive property. Not boo. All right, do we know how to multiply?
Yes.
Can we put our calculators down, please, guys? Or I'll take your calculators, one of the two. Okay, we know how to multiply, right?
Yes.
So if I have like 2 times 4, we get 8, right? Now, there's a weird multiplication process called the distributive property.
It's something I remember learning associated calculator.
Okay, so the distributive property looks like this. Do you see all this A's in front of these parentheses? Well, what's right here is actually a multiplication sign. It's one of those, if I have like 2 times A, we write 2A. There is a multiplication sign right here. Now, recall, when we did PEMDAS, what was the very first thing you had to do? You had to do parentheses first. Here's the problem. I can't do A plus B. Because A plus B is just fixed. The only way I could do it is if it was like 2 plus 4, but we don't have that. We have B plus C. But this isn't simplified yet. So to get around the fact that I can't actually do this addition, I'm going to do this multiplication. But to do this multiplication, I have to see how A affects the B, and I have to see how the A affects the C as well. So the distributive property works like this. You're going to take this A, multiply it by that B. That will get you A times B. But we have that C there, right? I haven't used it yet, so what we're going to do is, notice how we have B plus C? We're going to take that positive sign and we're going to drag it over. So we have plus. And then we're going to do A times C.
Wait, so the plus sign in the middle is like,
Just gets moved, yeah.
why is there multiplication?
Shh. Because this is multiplication, right? So it's called the distributive property because I'm actually going to distribute this multiplication to both things that are in the parenthesis. That's why it's called the you know when you distribute something evenly among class? Like if I had $100 and I distributed it between you guys, I would hand everyone a little bit of money. The distributive property is distributing this A to everything that's in that parenthesis. We're not going to talk about it today, but there are times where there's like 3 or 4 things in that parentheses that A has to be distributed to. To distribute it, we use the multiplication that's here. That we are distributing this A to both terms by using our multiplication, and that middle thing will tell you whether you're going to add it or subtract it. Michaela, can you pick up your head, please? Thank you. All right, so our next one. Once again, can we do what's in the parentheses right now? Can I do anything with B minus 7?
No.
No, because it's not numbers. So what we're going to do to simplify this, yeah? Okay. What we're going to do to simplify this is we're going to distribute this A to this B. Now, instead of writing A times B, this time I'm just going to write AB. Because you do not need to write the multiplication sign. Just like if I write 2A, I don't write 2 times A, I just write 2A, right? So in this case, we can just write AB, or you can write A times B. It's up to you. Yeah. It would still be A times B. This is the exact same thing as this. These two things are the exact same. Now, we have a subtraction sign this time, right? So make sure that subtraction sign stays a subtraction sign. And then we're going to distribute this A to this C, giving us AC or A times C, meaning the exact same thing. Whether I put the multiplication sign or not, it means the exact same thing. So let's do some examples together. So the first one we're going to do is, can we actually add the x plus 6 right now? No, the only time we can actually do this is if these are 2 numbers. Or 9, sorry. We can't do this x plus 9, so we have to distribute this 4. So we're going to take this 4 to this x. So we're now going to have 4 times x, or 4x. We'll carry down the positive sign. And then we're going to need to do 4 times 9. Now, when you have 2 numbers, you can't leave out the dot. Otherwise, it looks like 49, right? So we'll have 4 times 9. Can we actually do 4 times 9, though?
Yes.
We'll have 36.
How are there 2 4s? Are you? No.
Shh. We are distributing the 4 to everything that's in there.
This is like, oh, okay.
So we're taking this 4 and we're saying, because I can't simplify this, I have to see how the 4 affects how the 4 affects everything in the parentheses. So this 4 is attached to both the x and the 9 because of the parentheses. So we have to distribute the 4 to both items. If there was 3 items, we'd actually increase it to 3 4s. It's how does the 4 affect everything in that parenthesis without being able to do that addition. So our next one, we have that 7 out front, right? So we're going to distribute that 7 to the k, which would give me 7k. We're going to make sure we carry down that negative sign. And then we're going to do 7 times 3.
Oh.
Yeah. It's going to be 21. Yeah.
I have a question for number 1.
Okay, let me finish this one real quick, okay? So we would have 7 times 3. So you can either write your 7 times 3 or you can jump straight to the fact that that's just minus 21. Okay, the question is on the first one.
If I was to do, like, would it be correct if I still put the answer?
If you did what with the answer?
If I just did 4x plus 36?
Absolutely, 100% fine. So what I have boxed in is our answer, right? I don't need to see that intermediate step unless you're still a little confused. It's all about how confident are you in what you're doing. I would like you to have a couple examples that show it in case you have to study for the test and you're like, I forgot how I got this. You get what I mean? Make sure we're not just like circling this. Make sure you're circling the entire answer. So if you notice on mine, I never circled the 7K. I boxed in the entire thing so I know that this is my entire answer. Because I think we did that last time too, didn't we? Make sure we're doing our entire thing. Yeah.
So for number 2, so once you get put 7K, you do the first
The first number times the last number. Can you say that one more time? So we have 7 times 3, right? Which gives me 21.
Oh,
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, we always have to do it by the first thing and then by the next one. It always has to be in that order. Okay, pay attention to the next one. The next one with work is a little challenging with distributing. These were easy because there was a positive 4 and a negative, or a positive 7, right?
Yeah.
But now look what I'm multiplying by.
Can I do it? I can tell you.
Give me a shot.
So I'm gonna go straight to answer the answer.
Okay.
It'll be negative 3 in plus 24.
I 100% agree with that answer.
plus.
Let's talk about it.
Wait, yeah, 7 equals 21.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We are taking this entire negative 3 and we're distributing it. The whole negative 3 is being distributed. So if I have negative 3 times n, I would have negative 3n. There's 2 ways to look at this next part. Either we look at it as, oh, it's negative 3 times a negative 8, which would give us a positive 24, right? Does that make sense? Or we can look at it as, well, I carry down this negative, and then I have negative 3 times 8.
Wait, is it a negative 24? Positive.
It should be a positive 24.
Oh,
Be-
that's wrong.
because what happens if I have 2 negatives in a row?
It becomes a positive.
It becomes a positive. That's how we get to this negative 3n plus 24. So there's 2 ways to look at that. Either we look at it as just, okay, it's a negative times a negative is a positive, or we carry down this negative and realize that these negatives will cancel out. In short, if you're distributing a negative, it should switch the sign of everything in it. So I'm distributing a negative 3, right? N becomes negative. The 8 becomes positive 24. So distributing a negative will flip all of the signs inside the parentheses. Yeah.
I'm still confused how you got a positive 24.
Well, what's negative times a negative?
Positive.
It's a positive. So I am multiplying negative 3 times a negative 8. And you told me a negative times a negative is a positive, right? So what's negative 3 times negative 8?
24.
Positive 24, right? Bless you. The easy way to remember that is, once again, if you're distributing a negative value, it's going to switch all of the signs inside your parentheses. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it one more time, and then you guys have a whole bunch you're going to try. All right. Are we distributing by a negative number?
Yes.
Yes. What's going to happen to all of the signs inside? They're going to switch. So notice how we have a positive 5x? At the end, I should have a negative something x. Do you see how this is a negative? What's the opposite of a negative? So we should have a positive constant. So right now I know our answer should be a negative, something with an x, and a positive with a constant. So let's go ahead and distribute this negative 2. What happens if I have negative 2 times a positive 5? Yeah.
It goes to negative 10.
It goes to negative 10. Thank you. Negative 10x. What happens if I have a negative 2 times a negative 2? First of all, what's a negative times a negative?
Positive.
Positive. A negative times a negative is a positive.
They don't have to be touched.
So what's negative 2 times negative 2?
Positive 4.
A positive 4. So our answer is going to be a positive 4. Like I said, distributing the negative can be the most confusing part about the distributive property. It's pretty easy when we just have like a whole number here. It gets a little more confusing when you distribute a negative. Just remember, your negatives will flip the signs.
How do you do with fractions?
Same way. You just have to know how to multiply fractions.
Calculating.
Or we can just know that multiplying fractions are multiplying straight across. All right, the rest are for you to try right now.
I've done most of them already.
Cool.
That's a third.
Shh, gentlemen.
How many have you done?
Gentlemen. What are the ones we want to see? Yeah. Number 4. Let's take a peek at number 4. Number 4, we're distributing a positive 9, so we don't have to worry about sign changes. We're going to have 9 times 2. Well, 9 times 2 is 9 plus, which should be 18. Now, once again, we don't have to worry about sign changes. So you see this negative here? We should have a negative here. 9 times a is just 9a, so I'll have a negative 9a. Okay? If you're with me and you're starting to practice rotating things, you don't have to do this. But you may have written this as 9a plus 18. You don't need to do that. So if that's confusing you, don't do it. Any other ones we want to see? Did I hear 15? 15? Let's take a peek at 15. All right, 15, we are distributing a fraction to numbers here, okay? So we're going to distribute 4 over 9 to 3 over 8. That's going to give me 4 over 9 times 3 over 8. W. Then we're going to take that 4 over 9, distribute to the 10. This is where we have to be a little smart about this. So it is a positive. That's hooking them up. It's 4 over 9 times 10, but I'm going to write 10 as 10 over 1. Yeah. Were you going to tell me that?
Yes. Oh, yes, sir. And,
Sorry.
I get another question. On Wednesday, will we do any work?
Can we finish this?
Yes.
Okay. So when you multiply fractions, just a reminder of multiplying fractions, you multiply straight across. So I'm going to do 4 times 3. 4 times 3 is 12. I'll do 9 times 8, which is 72, W. Plus, multiplying straight across, we have 4 times 10, which is 40. Over 9 times 1, which is just 9. And you're going to see 12 over 72 can be simplified because 12 goes into 12 and 72. It'll be 1 over 6W plus 40 over 9. Okay, does that make sense? Any other last second ones we want to see? Okay. Then let's do the backside real quick. Yep. It's not that much more difficult. We're going to go ahead and we're going to learn about simplifying. We're going to put kind of stuff that we already know all together. Okay. So simplifying. An algebraic expression is in simplest form when it has no more like terms. That means we combined all our like terms, okay? So no more like terms. No like terms. That means we combined everything. No like terms. And basically we distributed everything. So there's no parentheses. So to simplify an algebraic expression, if there are parentheses you can't get rid of, you're going to distribute and you're going to combine like terms. So remember how I said combining like terms is like the key to this chapter? If we didn't get that homework, this is where we're going to struggle because now we're going to combine like terms as well. So we're going to factor, or we're going to distribute, and then we're going to combine like terms. Okay? Let's take a peek at what that looks like. Oh, I see some people still writing. I'll give you a second. You already did the first one? Nice.
No, I'm doing it right now.
Just as nice, because we should always try to be ahead of me, right?
Yes.
Whether you're actually writing it or you're just thinking about what my next step is, you always want to be one step ahead of Mr. Pabian.
Yes.
Because if you're just reacting to what I'm doing, you're just copying it down. If you're thinking about what I'm doing, that's how we learn this stuff. All right, so keep that in mind when we do the first thing. PEMDAS. What's the very first thing I have to do?
Parentheses.
I have to do parentheses. Daniel's on top of that. Now, can I actually do x minus 5?
No.
No. So because I can't do what's in the parentheses, you have to distribute first. So distributing is just as high up as parentheses. If you can't do what's in the parentheses, then you have to distribute. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to distribute this 3. So we're going to have 3x, perfect, because we'll have 3 times x, which will give me 3x.
Do we do 3 times 5?
We'll do 3 times 5, yep. It's going to be negative 15, you got it. Now we just need to practice that skill, right?
Where'd you get negative? Oh.
With 3 times 5, I got my plus 8x, and I have my plus 1. Is this fully simplified because I'm done distributing? No. Do I have like terms? Yes, I have like terms that I need to combine. So the first like term I see that 3x and that positive 8x? What happens if I have 3 x's and I add 8 more to the pile?
11
I have 11 x's. So we'll have 11x. Now here's where we got to reach down and remember how to deal with negatives and positive. If I have a negative 15, now don't just shout out an answer. I want us all to think about this. I have negative 15 and I'm adding 1 to that negative 15. Now remember, we're going in opposite directions. One's going in the negative direction and we're taking a step in the positive direction.
Negative 14.
Thank you for not yelling it out. Okay. Negative 14 is correct. Remember, we're not supposed to have our phones on us. All right, so we have 11x minus 14. Is it fully simplified? Oh, I did because I boxed it in, right? But it is fully simplified because I don't have any more like terms. Let's do number 2 together. Number 2, I should be distributing the 5 to the n. What do I get if I distribute a 5 to an n?
5n.
I get 5n, thank you. 5 times 6, and what does that get me? It would be 30. We have plus 30 minus a 21. Do we have any like terms that I can combine?
Yes.
What can we combine, Waddell?
30 minus 21.
I can do 30 minus 21. Does anyone have that? Shout it out if you got it.
9.
It'd be 9. Thank you. So we have 5n plus 9.
We do 4 and then we do 5 through 10 up.
Yeah, we're going to do 3 and 4, and then we'll do yeah. Because you want to do some on your own?
Yeah.
Yep. We'll do 2 more together, and then we'll do the rest on our own, okay? Here's the thing. What am I distributing in number 3? What's in front of... What am I distributing in 3? A negative. We have to worry about signs with negatives, right? We have to worry about signs when we have negatives. So when I distribute that 7 to that w, would I end up with a negative 7w or a positive 7w?
Negative 7.
I would have a negative 7w. Do you see these little lines I'm drawing above here?
Yes.
I would draw them. All right, that's why I keep drawing them. It's just good reference in your mind. You're going to find out that in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry and all that stuff, we're going to distribute and we're going to forget how to do it, so we draw those arrows. Yeah.
We put negative 7 w then plus 28.
Careful.
Wait. Negative 28.
Negative 28. Thank you for correcting yourself. Yep. Because I'm sure you did, because we have that negative, which is the sign. Then we have plus 2w.
But we do negative 7w plus
Negative 7w plus 2w. Now we went negative 7 in this direction. We're going to take 2 steps towards 0. I would have, does that make sense? Negative 5w? Because I was at negative 7 and I took 2 in the positive direction. So I'm going to have negative 5w. Now, are these both negatives?
Our old teacher used to do that.
Okay. As long as you're not making fun of someone in the classroom. Okay. So we have a negative 28 and a negative 15, right? Are they both going in the same direction? They're both going in the negative, right? So remember, if they're both going in the negative, we're basically doing 28 plus 15, and then we attach a negative sign to it. What'd you guys come up with?
I got negative 5 minus 43.
I got negative 13.
I got 43.
43 is correct. A negative 43. Now let's talk about why that's correct. So I think what you did is you might have did like 15 minus 15. You might have did 28 minus 15. Remember, this is a negative 28 and a negative 15. So if I'm at negative 28, I'm going 15 steps further away from 0. So that's basically 28 plus 15, which is 43, and you tack a negative onto it. Make sure if you're using your calculator, you make sure you put your negative 28 minus 15. You're very careful if you're plugging it in there. Okay, our last one, I'm going to do it kind of quickly. We should have 12 times 4, which is 48. And remember, we have that negative sign in between it, so we should have a negative 12k.
Oh, that makes sense.
So,
Because we don't switch the signs, right? Because I don't have a negative 12, I have a positive 12, so we carry down the negative. And then we have a minus 9k.
Do the K's first.
We'll do the k's first. Well, we can combine the k's, right?
wait,
12. Now, be careful here because it's a negative and a negative, right? It's a negative minus. So we're going this. So I start at negative 12 and I go 9 further away from 0.
Negative 21
It should be negative 21. So we have 48
plus negative 21.
minus 21k. Or you can do plus minus. I'm just going to put a minus 21k. Now remember, you can reverse the order of these if you're starting to prepare yourself for like Algebra 1 where you get them in order, but I'm okay with us just leaving them like this. Guys, we have about 20 minutes left. Let's see how far we can get through these on our own and let's ask lots of questions. We have 6 problems here. Let's see how many we can get through, okay? Make sure you're asking questions.
Yeah, but damn you.
Guys, just to be cognizant of your time, I want to do a couple things because I love seeing, I think there's 4 of you that are working really, really hard. A few of us are distracted. We should have got more than 1 done at this stage. I'm going to go through just a couple of these, and then I'll tell you how to do the homework because the homework has a key to it. Now, the more you did in the class, the easier the homework's going to be. If you were not paying attention to what we're doing, you're going to struggle. Now, the key is keep things organized. So I'm going to do number 7 with you guys. I'm going to do number 7 with you guys, and the key is going to be to keep things organized. Yes? We'll talk about that later. All right. So number 7. Let's do this number 7 together. Okay, on number 7, you're going to start out by just keeping the negative 13. That has nothing to do with the parentheses, so we keep it alone. Now, we're going to take this positive 5 and we're going to distribute to both the y and the 2. 5 times y will give me a positive 5y. 5 times the 2 is going to give me a positive 10. Minus 8. So notice we just need to be careful organizing things. Now, we don't have any like terms for our y, so we'll keep the 5y. But we do have a negative 13, a positive 10, and a negative 8. We need to actually add all this together. That we could do in our calculator. We could do negative 13 plus 10 minus 8. But you should get out, just for the sake of time, we should have got out a negative 11. Can we all look at mine real quick? It's okay if you've been doing that. Can we all look up here? Look up here. Do you see how organized this is?
Yes.
Do I have numbers all over the place?
No.
We got to keep this stuff organized, otherwise we're going to confuse ourselves. All right, we're going to do one more together, and that's number 10.
So, Mr. Pabian,
Yeah.
I don't have to write down all the work I do.
Nope.
Oh.
All right, so for number 10, do you see this negative 2p? We're going to leave that out front. It has nothing to do with the distributive property, so I have that negative 2p. Now we're going to take this negative 6. Negative 6 should worry you because you're distributing a negative, so we need to switch signs. Negative 6 times p would be a negative 6p. Negative 6 times a negative 4, it's a negative times a negative, would be a positive 24 plus 22. Let's look for like terms. I have a negative 2p, a negative 6p, a negative minus another. So I have negative 2 minus 6, which would give me negative 8p. And then I'll have 24 plus 22, which would give me a positive 46. Those are the two I definitely wanted to get through. Yep. For which one? For number 8, you got what?
-6 minus x.
For your full answer? So let's take a peek at that real quick. So we should have 12x out front. We are distributing a -2, so a -2 times 9 is a -18. When I distribute this -2 to this -x, it's going to flip signs. So I should have a positive 2x. Do you see how the signs would switch? Because I have a negative times a negative. That's why I'm telling you guys to circle this and draw your arrows. So now I have 12x plus 2x, so I should have 14x minus 18 would be the correct for that one. All right, can we take a second and look at our homework? Because our homework has a kind of a trick to it. Not this part, this part. Just do the math. 14x, we have a -18 there. All right, so how does this work? Your job is to solve everything in this box. Are we all looking up here?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to do H with you. When I distribute this 4 to both things, we should end up with 4x plus 4 times 7 is 28. All right, see how there's an H there? Keep that in mind. When you do this side, there's actually one that matches up with this answer. So if I look at number 3, I think it's number 3. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 has a 6x and a -2x. What happens if I have 6 x's and I take 2 of them away?
4x.
I have 4x. And what happens if I have -2 plus 30 or 30 minus 2? We have 28.
Oh, that's what I did wrong.
Do you see how these two match up?
Yeah. Yeah.
See how this says H
Yes, sir.
and this one says 3?
So number 3 is H.
So number 3 is H. So we go down to the bottom and match up our 3 and our H. So we find number 3 and we put an H
Oh, the answer
in there.
apple bottom.
Bro, what?
Yeah, except for completely different letters. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So your job is to actually, you have to complete each box and see what match up to see. So 12 is going to be either be A, N, or D. 5 is either going to be A. So make sure they match up. Yeah.